Thank you very much for coming along this very hot day in this very hot tent. We'll make this as interesting as we possibly can, I hope. We're talking about creativity. In fact, we're talking about the subject, are we teaching creativity out of our children? Creativity, that word, it's become somewhat divisive at the moment. On the one hand, you've got, people say it's vital, has a vital role in learning. Experts like Sir Ken Robinson saying it should be as important as literacy in the curriculum. You've got other people saying, yes, it's important, but perhaps some of these ideas about creativity, they're not really there's no actual classroom solutions to some extent of those things. Perhaps people like Tom Bennett, behavioural expert, and the government's new SAR on low-level disruption. We'll be talking about all those subjects and many more, but firstly, some introductions. This debate is brought to you by an organisation called STEAMco. Now, that powers communities and primary schools to inspire children with creativity, giving them a school day like no other. And I really mean that. I've seen them, and we're going to have a little look at a video right now, if we can. It's organised by a guy called Nick Coulson at the back. I think he deserves a wave and a round of applause, actually, for what he's doing.
So STEAM Day, absolutely brilliant. The children are so engaged, they're enthusiastic, and they're really having to think.
My STEAMco Day was absolutely amazing, and my favourite workshop so far was the Hexbug one. It's just helped me with my science, my engineering, my technology.
My STEAMco Day was awesome. All of the workshops were so amazing and I enjoyed everything which I learned.
We've got children from years 7, 8 and 9 who have come in to support our learning. Our parents are fully involved, local businesses.
I think STEAM skills are very important because you need quite a few to get on with life.
It was a bit tricky, but it all turned out really nice.
My STEAMco Day was really nice. I really enjoyed it, especially when we get out to make our own aeroplanes.
My STEAMco Day was awesome. It had lots of different things and different materials that we can use.
I like the painting because we had all wallpaper pictures on the board and we got to copy one.
My STEAMco Day was amazing. We've been engineering using newspaper.
It was amazing because we got to paint.
I would thoroughly recommend a STEAM Day in your school, whether you're a primary school or a secondary school. It's an entire curriculum in one day, and we've had so many wow moments today. I couldn't really have asked for more, and I'm just so grateful that this has all come together.
So there you go, that's a STEAMco Day. And STEAM, you'll see obviously that's STEM subjects plus art, including creativity. Let's speak to some people in our panel. First of all, after we've done some introductions, I'm Mike Ramsden, former BBC News journalist, now working with a communications agency called PLMR, who have a specialism in education. Also here is, let's start, Phil Avery. Stand up, let's have a chat. You're the Director of Learning and Strategy at Bohunt Education Trust.
Correct.
And you've led some innovative work which has put STEM at the very heart of the curriculum for your students. Just talk me through that.
So we had a concern that creativity was disappearing in part from the secondary curriculum, and in particular it was disappearing from science and technology and maths. So we decided to put in dedicated STEM lessons, and I would argue actually that terminal exams and an increase focus on content has actually enabled us to do that. We're reducing down the number of subjects that students are taking, so it's freeing up time in the timetable for us to emphasise what we feel is important. And STEM and STEAM is part of that. So we've got dedicated STEM lessons that are done in conjunction with major businesses like Siemens and Surrey Satellites that are focusing on a process, the design process, on children being creative, on creating prototypes and project plans and working with a variety of engineers to develop those and to see where they go. And I think we need to realise, all of us in the room, that our children actually have ideas that can go well beyond the school walls. I'm going to give one example, then I'm going to pass this back. Which is we had students that were working on practical actions, one of their projects about improving disaster relief shelters. At the moment we fly in tents to disaster areas because they're cheap, they're light, But the problem is people end up living in them for years. And there are a group of people working in the world at the moment for a massive multi-million pound prize. But we set our students the same challenge. And one student said, well, why do we fly in anything? It's a disaster. Therefore, you're going to fly in food on pallets and you're going to fly in water in bottles. Let's just design an incredible shelter out of pallets and water bottles. So he did the thermal properties of mud and sand and leaves. He designed a modular build and he put this forward to practical action. It costs nothing. It's there, or nothing additional, and it's stronger than a tent. And maybe, just maybe, he's solved that problem.
And Phil, I just want to talk to you very, very briefly about immersive language learning, which is something your school does as well. What we're talking about there is perhaps learning French, Spanish, Mandarin as well, while you're doing your maths lesson. Talk to me how that works.
Yeah, I think we get stuck sometimes. We're trying to improve a system, and actually maybe it's better to try an entirely different system. And this happens quite a lot in the world. I was lucky enough to travel with the Winston Churchill Fellowship to Sweden and the United States and the Netherlands, and their bilingual programs are nothing new. But we educate a group of students in each year. 1/3 of their timetable is taught in a foreign language, either French, Spanish or Mandarin. And what we're finding is that students taught, say, history in Spanish outperform students taught history in English in the first year or so that they're at the school, and the gap does close over time. And the reason being that they are so challenged that their learning behaviours they display are way in advance of their peers. They're having to work together. The sort of conversation you hear is, I didn't get the second part of that. What are you doing? How are you doing this? Can I have a look at yours? Can we swap? And then you're seeing that with 11-year-olds, with 12-year-olds. That gap does close over time to the point where there's no discernible pattern. However, what does stay throughout their time at school is a gap widens with their attitude to learning. They are far more positive about the attitude to learning. And I think sometimes we get constrained within a system. And I think creativity is a big part of that. The way we teach, maybe sometimes we need to take a massive sideways step, do it in an entirely different way and see what happens. And I think putting in lessons that aren't examined, immersion language teaching, there are many other ways. Working with companies like Steamco, there are many other ways of doing it.
Thank you very much, Phil. Okay, our next panellist is Becky Carlson, a teacher at Christ Church COV VC Infant School in Bristol. And you're involved in the Steamco idea, but also in teaching STEM subjects, but also in building learning power. Yeah. Now, that's Professor Guy Claxton's, what was something mentioned in his book. He's speaking tomorrow, along with Sir Ken Robinson as well, either side of Tiny Temper, I believe, at some point in the afternoon. Talk to me about building learning power and what it means in the classroom for the children you teach.
Yeah. Okay, so building learning power is about not just teaching subjects, but helping children to understand themselves as learners and become better lifelong learners, so they use those skills in school and out. So, for example, we might teach our children to persevere with something tricky. We might make sure that there's something that they're going to grapple with that they'll find too difficult or really difficult to do, so they get that experience of challenge in their learning. We might also teach them to collaborate with one another and to learn with other children, and that's a really good way to get unstuck. And we do lots of kind of open-ended kind of ideas so that they can think and plan their own learning, and it's not all the teachers telling them what to do, it's asking them how they could solve that or how they might learn about that. And in that way, they become creative and they create their own learning and have their own ideas. And that's really empowering to them. They love learning, they love coming to school and knowing that they can come up with their own ways to overcome problems. So one example of that might be a couple of weeks ago we were learning about, I teach 5 to 7-year-olds, year 1 and 2, and they were learning to add and subtract. And one of the boys in my class wanted to go outside and play What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, because we played it the week before. And so I explained, well, that's not to do with adding and subtracting. Can you talk to your friends and kind of work out a way of doing it? And I'll come along in 10 minutes. And I popped outside to find him stood at the front directing a small group of children behind him, and they all had like 100 squares with the numbers 1 to 100 on, and they were calling out, "What's the number sentence, Mr. Wolf?" And he was saying, 10 take away 3, and they'd be find 7 on their 100 square and step forward 7 steps. So like that was their idea. He had to organise all the children, they had to collaborate and talk to one another, and it had come from them. It's not so, I could never have come up with that. So that's kind of an example of building learning power.
Great, thank you very much for that, Becky. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk more in a moment. Debbie Roberts, hello. You've worked in widening participation in higher education. That's what you do at the moment. You've just joined our panel, literally about an hour ago, so thank you very much for stepping in. You're at the Windsor Fellowship as well. That's increasing employability. You're a governor of a primary school as well, and changing the curriculum there.
Absolutely.
You've seen what's happening with STEAMco as well. What are your thoughts about creativity and learning?
Okay, so within our school, we're really passionate about bringing STEAM into the curriculum. And I was actually sent the information, STEAMco, I'd actually only heard about them a couple of weeks ago. And my brother met the founder, and he was asked to speak here. I came today, introduced myself to the founder, and was asked to be on the panel. So here I am. So in terms of the curriculum, I sent this, when I got the information last week, I sent this to my head teacher at the school, and already we're looking at it, we've incorporated into the curriculum. So next summer, we're going to have a STEAM week. So we're being ambitious in terms of a day, we're actually going to have a week. But we've already done our curriculum maps across for the next academic year, and we're going to be weaving the A, as in the A in the STEM, into the curriculum. And so in terms of everything we do, we're going to be looking at creativity across in every subject. So for example, we might have something like DT, where we would just do DT and we do maths separately, but we're going to be bringing them together. So it's looking at where we wouldn't have originally brought things together in terms of subjects and areas, and bringing them across the whole curriculum.
And the idea is this is easy, isn't it? This is an easy thing to incorporate in a curriculum as well. So, great. Thank you very much, Debbie. And let's finally meet Rachel Snape. Hello, Rachel. You're a trustee designate at STEAMco.
Oh, gosh, that's true.
That's true. But your day job is you're head teacher at the Spinney School.
Very good. It's all on here, isn't it?
It's all on here, yeah. Do you want to read it out?
I wouldn't mind. That's correct.
Okay. You read that out, and I'll show everybody the cufflinks you gave me today, which have Lego on them, which I think are really cool.
This was one of those connecting moments where I just thought I'm in the right place, because I tend to have bits of Lego in my pocket. Oh, shall I take that? Goodness. So I tend to have bits of Lego in my pocket because my personal mantra is only connect. But I didn't want to get onto that straight away. I've got a question for you. And the question is, how many of you work in schools? Put your hand up, please. Okay. How many have ever been to school? Gosh, that's surprisingly a number of you. How many of you are leaders? Ah, okay, hands down. I wonder if you can see that connection, because, of course, you're so smart, you've worked out what I'm going to say. You're all leaders if you work in a school. And so, although the debate today is about creativity in schools, my thinking, and I'd like to pretend it's my thinking, I'm sure lots of you think like this, is that it becomes some sort of polarised argument about creativity in school, creativity that is supposed to be taught by teachers. But actually, I think it's about having a creative life, because children are only in school for 12% of their waking day. And so my view in my school is to encourage everybody within the community to think of themselves as creative leaders and to try to get involved in doing things that they might otherwise not do. Every year we start off with targets. We love those targets, we do. But the targets in our school are not just about levels, they are actually about targets that will enhance your life, because your life can be arguably a bit like a fruit salad. And it's up to you to decide what you want in your fruit salad. And the best thing is you get to choose. So in my fruit salad that is my life, I set myself some targets over the last 5 years. And I model those with my staff and I tell the children about it. So over the years, I have chosen to put martial arts into my life. I am now a black belt. Can you believe it? It's remarkable. I now play the harmonica, and I'm also in a very disreputable ukulele band, but I won't talk about that now. But the point is that really we do get sort of skewed in our thinking, and as educators, so lots of head teachers do this. They have on their door the sign head learner. But that humility that genuinely is that you're actively demonstrating that you're constantly learning is a really important role modelling for the children. So that's my view on creativity. The argument shouldn't be about creativity in schools, about creativity in educators to be role models that will then take that into the community.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. We're just going to have a couple of questions, then we'll take some questions from you, and then we'll do something else to be revealed. Okay. Firstly then, we heard Sir Ken Robinson on Radio 4 recently saying dance should be as important as mathematics in the curriculum. It should be given equal weight. What do you think about that, Phil? Do you think about just on those ideas of if we're training people to be great citizens and great, people who can get great jobs and all those kind of things, creativity is important. Is that what he's trying to say there?
I didn't think we'd get a full tent, let alone that I'd have to comment on Sir Ken Robinson. I think, to be honest, thinking about dance is a subject versus literacy, which is a skill. And I think almost we're comparing apples and pears. And we're here to talk about creativity, which is a skill. And I think that can come in any subject. It doesn't need to be dance. Maybe it's more obvious in dance. I don't know. But we need to draw it out as a skill, and that can come into any subject. Students are creating things in any subject. But furthermore, it is only one skill amongst many others. And students need to know when to use it, and they need to know when to stop using it. There's that annoying person when you just need to get something done that keeps coming up with, we could do this, we could do this. No, we just need to get something done because the deadline is rapidly approaching. So, albeit not to disagree, creativity, yes, but as a skill, not as a subject.
So let me put that a different way then. Do you need a bedrock of subjects, a bedrock of understanding and a sort of bedrock of maths and English before you can be creative, Rachel?
I think it's very important to have those core skills, as I know we've got some people over here who loved seeing Nikki this morning, didn't you? Yes. But I know that we do have a moral responsibility to teach reading, writing and maths, but it isn't for the sake of the data and it isn't for the sake of the SATs, but it is the keys for what that will do for children. I didn't quite believe that you needed to be able to count in order to play the ukulele. Hasn't held me back, I tell you. But certainly if you're going to read the great works of Shakespeare or whoever, I think it's great if you can absolutely read. And we do need to invest time in that. But of course, that isn't the end of the story at all. Those are the keys. But we have the opportunity to show the great diverse range. And I don't know, in fact, I'm going to just do this. I'd like to ask any of you, in fact I'm going to go off a little bit off piece. Victor Borgia said that the smile is the shortest distance between two people. So I'm looking for people to smile at me now. That's good, because you're looking quite scary, to be honest. So I'm really interested in you thinking about who is your most inspirational teacher. Somebody tell me who is their most inspirational teacher. Oh, I like it. I asked you to sit at the front as well. I've got great hope in you. Right, who's your most inspirational teacher?
He was called Mr. Mossman, and he used to pretend that he was married to a mop in his room. And then we went through an elaborate staged plan where one of my classmates kidnapped the mop and left him loads of questions about it. It was someone that we had a really great relationship with. And he also loved his subject.
And sounded quite crazily exciting. Anybody else, their favourite, most inspiring teacher?
I had a secondary school teacher called Mrs. Tattersfield, and it wasn't actually what she did in the classroom, it was what she inspired me to do out of the classroom and took my learning to go and explore the world, which I'm still doing. She engaged with me as a person.
Random stuff in my pocket, and for any of you that are dealing with challenging children, I'm so sorry. I'm not very good with those things. Those children. Here's a top tip for anybody who has any EBD. Although we can't call them EBD, we do talk about children with emotional difficulties. So we won't say they have behavioural difficulties because that was so 2013. They're now children who have emotional difficulties. But if you are, here's my recommendation, my takeaways. put interesting things in your pockets, because those children that are really can't cope and they're herring up the corridor, and you're as a head teacher just trying to calm them down, just have some nice things in your pockets like this, you see. You see, what do you think of those? Imagine you're just getting very cross and you just think, what do you think? She doesn't even want to hold them. Yes, that's very, if you do, imagine how we've got to help creativity. If you don't even want to hold the stones, it's all right.
Small, semi-precious stones there.
Small, semi-precious stones. The question earlier was, and this is why I asked about inspirational, the question was, reading, writing and maths, is it enough? The answer is, it's not enough, but it is important, but you've got to make connections with your kids and you've got to be able to let them see the world that is beyond the school, because that was your point.
Lovely, thank you very much, Rachel. So finally, before we take questions, Becky, can you teach creativity?
I think teaching creativity isn't just about directly teaching creativity. It's about the language and the attitude and the habits you build in the classroom. So, for example, I think Carol Dweck's talking tomorrow, and she talks a lot about kind of the power of yet, and she talks about could be versus is. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but the idea being that teaching can be very is-like. So this is the way you do this, is like this is the way things are. But if you change that to could be, this could be the way you do it. What's another way you can think of? How might you go about that? That immediately fosters creativity. So it doesn't have to be subjects like dance or art or anything that you traditionally think of as a more creative subject. You can do that in maths too. So, for example, at the very beginning of the year in year 1, we talked to the children about numbers and what numbers they knew. And so, for example, they'd say the number 6, and they'd draw the number 6 and they'd count out 6 objects. But what else might it be? And they'd say it could be half a dozen eggs, it could be an ant with 6 legs, or it could be 3 sets of 2. So immediately maths is creative and could be. So I think it's a lot of it can be in the language that you use, not just directly teaching kids to be creative.
Yeah, I've had to learn that trying to teach my daughter piano, which has been pretty much disastrous. Phil, give us an example.
Also, I think about learning environment as well. If you want your students to create and then move on to other things, you need to enable them, picking up on your point about collaborate. One takeaway thing, give them walls they can write on. You get your students up on their feet, they're working in teams, they're writing their ideas up big on the wall. You as a teacher can sit in your guided learning group, but at the same time you can keep an eye on what's going on. You can get very expensive products, like ideas paint or giant whiteboards. There is a product that you put into kitchens. It's £40 for an 8x4 sheet, and you can write all over it in whiteboard pens, and suddenly you've got your whole class up collaborating and creating.
Okay, in about 5 minutes' time, we're going to have a go at something a bit different to finish off this session. But before then, no nudity. Not that different. But has anybody got any questions for the next 5 minutes? Yes, sir.
Hi, one of the things about creativity is that you often create things. I draw in sketchbooks. Those sketchbooks fill up boxes. Those boxes fill up my flat. My wife wishes I was less creative. Do you have any comment on that? But in terms of the debate, one of the polarised views is that's presented often is that that school does sort of knock the natural creativity out of our children. But I think there's another side to it, which is that children left to their own devices eventually just give up because they need to help to get to the next level. And I wonder if that whole approach is just too negative.
Is creativity, is this working? No, I'll take that one back. Is creativity being knocked out of children, do you think, Debbie?
I think often it depends on the leader. And I think, as you said, everyone's a leader in a school. And so if the leader is supportive in terms of helping the child to be creative, then the child will be creative. And I also think in terms of children, a lot of creativity comes from within. And I work in higher education, so a lot of what we do is talk and work with students in terms of the student voice. It's a big thing. And I think there needs to be more of that at primary level, and that's something that we're bringing into our school. So, we're looking at the student voice. We've got the children that have actually participated in terms of planning the next year's curriculum, but the teachers need to be there in terms of, the structure and the framework, and so that there is that kind of development and support. But, yeah, I think.
That's great. Thank you very much, Debbie. Next question.
Hi there. I was just going to ask about the role of thinking within creativity, because I think it's really important to think I'm thinking of This is the creative thinking and effective thinking.
Yes, very good.
So
I'm just. They become these things in school, and they annoy me. I like things. My pockets are usually full of things that I might find, but I know that people in this room will know about those sorts of ideas on shelves that you've got to do this week because that's going to make the difference. And suddenly everybody's talking about thinking schools. I'm sure you weren't. I'm sorry. It's just I've got a little. I know you weren't. I'm so
I was
sorry.
just thinking like creative thinking.
Thinking.
Encouraging children.
Yes.
You know, it's not just about getting, the paint out and letting them go with it. It's then taking things like stories and letting them think at a higher level. I'm thinking like Bloom's taxonomy and.
You tell me.
I'm not saying like put it in.
I think you've got more of the answers than I have because I interrupted.
I don't. I promise.
Oh.
I'm asking you.
Right.
No,
absolutely.
Just the role of
but
it.
I think that Bloom's taxonomy. I guess it becomes one of those sorts of things that people suddenly buy into, or they start thinking. You've got to create, as was said earlier, you've got to create the right culture and the ethos in the school. And assemblies are really important times. If you do an assembly and you do metaphors in your stories, and you ask the children to all think about what that means and to make connections. Thinking skills or creative thinking shouldn't be put into a box. It's absolutely holistic across everything. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I think the important thing is anything that we're doing within school needs to have rigour, because otherwise it will be seen through by the students and it will be seen through by leaders as well. So picking up on both your points, if we're doing creative thinking, to what end? Have they done research about whatever it is that they're doing on? Can they link their creative thinking back to the initial task and the research? Can they communicate their ideas as well? Creativity doesn't sit in a bubble, it sits within a reason to be doing that creative thinking. And I think if we can have that level of rigour, then we've got something that's really powerful. The moment that falls away, the students will see through us. An example is that, and we need to be explaining to students why we're teaching in this way or why we're doing it. An example is we were pushing inquiry in science, and then we had students that just stood there saying, well, why am I doing the inquiry? We're doing the inquiry to get to an answer. The answer's in the textbook. The answer's what I need for the exam. Why don't you just give me the textbook? And we're thinking, well, it's active learning, it's this. And we hadn't explained to that student about the fact that we were teaching the skills of being a scientist of the future. We hadn't explained to that student that by designing the experiment themselves, they would understand the concept in more depth, and therefore they'd be able to transfer their knowledge should an exam question that's not exactly like that experiment come up. We hadn't done that bit of work. That was our fault. That student was quite right.
Thanks, Phil. Okay, final question. Anybody? Sorry, I'm just going to go over here. There you go.
Hi there. Yeah, I remember with Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk, the infamous TED Talk, that creativity is something that all, particularly young kids, are really, really good at, and they tend to unlearn it as they get older with traditional education. I teach in a school of kids ages 13 to 18, many of whom have had that traditional education beforehand. How would you suggest we get them to kind of relearn how to be creative?
Do you want to take that?
Yeah, I understand that because I work with younger children, so they are creative, and it's kind of quite easy to kind of get them on side and get them being creative. But I guess it's about breaking down barriers a little bit, maybe like mixing around, trying new things and mixing around groups. So I'd teach mixed ability, for example, and get the children socialising with one another and using each other as links and kind of sharing ideas. And it's about kind of breaking down those systems that are in place that are maybe stopping them from being creative, starting small and then building up.
So creativity is one of the words that's out there, but depending on who you read and where you go, so Christine Doddington, who works at the Faculty of Education, would say that beneath creativity is imagination. And so we can get caught up in, we've got to teach creativity in schools, and it becomes this thing that we fit into our curriculum. And I have to say, I'm not convinced about rigour within creativity. I think it's more just a kind of free flow, but that's me. But so encouraging places to be imaginative and to just go with where the child's going to lead. I'm not an expert in the area that you do, but I think it's about absolutely having a culture that is really trusting and a strong belief in the authenticity and the potential of the child. And if you go to that really humble state with a child and you just interact with that child, and nothing is from a top-down perspective that will squash who they are authentically at that time in their life. That's the sort of the gift you can give them into forever, because you'll know this quote because it's out there, that one that says, too often we can think about who a child's going to be in the future and we forget that they're really important people now. So I think for me, although creativity is one of those words, it's about making sure children are allowed to just get back and play and explore and just get really imaginative with their own thoughts and ideas.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you very much, panel, and thank you very much for your questions. Firstly, Nick, what do you want to say?
What do I want to say? I'm absolutely blown away that we've packed a tent out here. I'm Nick, I co-founded STEAMco. People like Rachel, the support of all the guys on the panel, absolutely fantastic. And you wouldn't be here if you didn't believe in this. Grab a copy of this newspaper. In the middle is a little excerpt from Ken Robinson's new book. He's going to be here tomorrow. What an inspiration. What can I say? Thank you all so much. We're powering communities to inspire children with creativity. It's not about us, it's about kids, it's about people. Come to see Inspirination, the tent round the back. And there's one little film I'd like to play, 2 minutes when Mike's finished, as a walkout. We went to Liverpool a month ago to launch STEAMco for the community of Liverpool. And that film says everything, I think. Thank you very much, guys.
We'll have a look at that afterwards as well. But just to finish off now, we're going to do some creativity, Rachel? Okay.
Yes.
Shall I hold the microphone?
You can do.
There we are.
So, because what I'm trying to say, and I don't know if this message is coming across, is don't polarize about creativity, because Mike said earlier, I'm trying to teach my son to play the piano, my daughter to play the piano. And my question to Mike is, are you playing the piano yourself and showing as a leader that you value creativity? Question.
Probably not well enough.
Probably not. So if we want creativity in our schools, we've got to take the risk ourselves. And I love the people who are already opening the boxes.
Let's take some risks.
So take some risks. So if you've got, I'm really sorry, we've only got 25. If you've got a ukulele, we're going to get creative now with the ukulele. And we're going to learn 2 chords to begin with.
Okay, unleash the ukuleles. They're in boxes underneath some of the chairs. If you don't want to play it, pass it on to somebody else. Let them have a go too. If you can play already, please join in.
Mike, do you want yours? Or
I'll have mine as well.
I'll give mine away to the audience.
Okay.
Okay, you've also got some...
Hold on. Okay, today we're learning 2/3 of rock and roll. 2 chords. That's all we're asking. 2 chords.
Okay, so our 2 chords are, and if one person gets it, show the person next to you, because we're very collaborative. So our 2 chords today are F and C7. Right, here we go.
F involves one finger, everybody. Just one finger. Sorry, C7.
Oof, we've only just met. Look how we're getting on. C7, have a go at that. So it's your first, use your first finger, and you're going to do this sound. It's sounding very, very good. Happy with that? Person next to you? Okay, and we're going to try F. So have a go at F. And if you've got a sheet in front of you or on the floor, it looks like that, that might be able to help you. If a friend's sitting next to you, they get the important job of being the music stand. Okay, so important people next to you being the music stand. We want everybody to have a job, I'm afraid. Okay, so we're going to do let's have a go. 8 strums of C7. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, change. C7, 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 F, 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 F. Back to C7. C. Let me listen to you. Let me listen to you. F. And back to C. C7. Is it sounding good? Right, we're fantastic. I booked the stage for later. Would that be all right? Okay, so now we're going to try this. If you are on... if you are on that side, I want to hear just Fs for a while. F. Don't do anything on this side. Fs. You're just going to play some Fs for me. Ready? 3. We'll drink a drink a drink a... Oh. Keep going with your Fs, please. Right, go. guess what you're going to do this side?
C7.
Oh my God! Very good. We're going to do C7 this side. C7. 5, 6, 7, 8. F. C7. C7's slightly advancing. F. C7. No, without that. You're the best. You are also the best. This man here, this man's the best.
Okay, let's do it.
Right. Right, are we ready? We're going to do, we'll drink, oh, we could do jambalaya. Nick wants to do jambalaya. It is number 2. It's your second page. Jambalaya. Got it?
Okay, good.
Right, so...
First.
Right, so ready to play your Fs and C7s. I'm going to sing along. If you are holding the paper, you're singing. We need to hear your voices. Are we ready? So it's 4 strums and then 4 strums. Goodbye, Joe, me gotta go, me oh my oh. I love these people. We's gotta go, pull the beer on down the bayou. No idea what these words mean. Here's Yvonne, the sweetest one, me oh my oh. Everybody else speaks. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Jambalaya, crawfish pie, Billy Gumbo. For tonight I'm gonna see my share of me-o. Pick guitar, drink fruit jar every day. Oh, you're brilliant, you two especially. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Goodbye, Joe, me gotta go, me oh my oh. We gotta go get the something on the somewhere. Keep singing. In the la 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 my oh. Son of a gun.